Thank you.
Now we come to Saemi Jung. Would you please put your presentation on?
Sure.
Advanced.
Advanced. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so yes, my name is Saemi Jung. I'll be presenting on the AI textbook. The title is AI Textbook, A True Classroom Revolution. So my agenda today is that I'm gonna start with what is this AI textbook? Why is it important? And I'm going to walk you through the context of how this initiative came about and also touch upon what is happening around the world in terms of educational technologies in general. And finally, I will share the initial findings and further research. So first of all, what is this AI textbook initiative? So the official name used in South Korea is the AIDT, AI Digital Textbook. So it came about as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Ministry of Education of Korea introduced a multi-year initiative titled Digital Driven Education Reform Plan. And this features a lot of algorithmic technologies, high-tech student surveillance, data surveillance to predictive analytics of student and teacher performances. And of course, this initiative came about as a solution to existing chronic issues in education. For instance, digital divide, trying to offer more customized / personalized learning, and also reducing teacher workload. So if you look at other places around the world, around a similar time, Europe, for instance, presented what was called the DEAP, Digital Education Action Plan, which was Europe's Fit for Digital Age. It was sort of this flagship initiative adopted in September 2020 to address the issues of unequal access of education. And there were a lot of similar policy reforms and initiatives taking place across the world, including Taiwan and other countries. And over in Canada, where I'm currently based, what has been booming here as a new market is this online proctoring system and also AI textbooks. So AI textbooks in Canada are more largely used in higher education. So AI tools were launched by textbook publishers like Pearson Education, and they became part of the curriculum at over 100 Canadian universities and colleges starting this fall. So it's only been about like 2-3 months. And this year, Pearson fully launched 3 generative AI tools, 1 for instructors and 2 that is embedded into digital textbooks in subjects such as biology, chemistry, business, and economics. And another textbook publisher, US-based McGraw-Hill, announced earlier that it's launching 2 AI tools for students. So there's a huge market for educational technologies in general. But of course, on the other hand, we are very familiar with the kinds of risks that come with these technologies in terms of data privacy, of course, ranging from algorithmic surveillance, data surveillance, and potential commodification of a lot of students' data. So in 2019, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled that secondary school students have a reasonable expectation of privacy over their own bodies while at school. And so with that context overall, going back to the case study that I'm doing, what needs to be understood in the context of South Korea is that education has been a critical political steering force for state development, as well as the country's post-colonial modernization identity. So this education reform initiative is very centrally orchestrated. It almost reminds us of a lot of the state modernization projects. And actually, this AI textbook is often celebrated and promoted as the world's first AI textbook. And the aim of this initiative includes democratizing education, equalizing education, and helping uneven teacher-student ratio and digital divide, and providing more personalized learning. But again, it's this plan echoes the country's long pattern of sort of top-down development projects and positions itself as a solution to broader politicized crisis in the country, from its rapidly aging demographic to plummeting mental health amongst overpressured students. So, who will be using this AI textbook and when? Um, so, in March 2025, so in about 3 months from now, third and fourth grade elementary school students and middle high school freshmen will be the first ones to use the digitalized, customized textbooks um, for the core subjects of mathematics, English, and informatics. And the following year, AI textbooks will be additionally available for fifth and sixth graders in elementary schools and middle school second graders, with 4 more subjects. And then by 2027, digital textbooks will be additionally introduced to all grades through K through 12. So then why am I examining this particular case study, and what is the problem? What are the stakes? There are many. First of all, it is the time of making of this particular device and technology. Announced in 2021, so just about 3 years ago. It only gave the government about 4 years to put together this ambitious project that is said to be revolutionizing Korean education. So it was introduced as the classroom revolution. The state government had a full-fledged datafied school in mind when pushing for this initiative. And in many ways, this kind of initiative historically reflects the kind of modernization project that was done in the 1970s, a lot of the urbanizing movement. Most importantly, in terms of thinking about the space of learning and teaching, which is the theme of our conference, this state orchestrated policy shifts the ways in which we think about future classrooms and pedagogy altogether. And it has normalized different modes of surveillance in classrooms through content management platforms and edtech products that feature facial recognition, sentiment analysis, and more. So what I try to argue in this project is that the use of AI textbook or any kinds of educational technologies that tend to be unregulated without having any protective measures against the potential risks that have been laid out by many scholars, it erases an intrinsic space of education as being democratic citizen, and it raises an intrinsic space of education as being capable of fostering social development and interaction of children to develop as democratic citizen, and embed particular kinds of surveillance gaze into classrooms with these high-tech devices and platforms. So if we deep dive into this issue, let's take a look at where it'll be used. So first of all, school classroom, and then the students will bring this device home. And then wherever the student goes and wants to use this AI textbook, that's the kind of guideline that the policy initiative lays out for the use of this AI textbook. As far as I checked, as of this morning, the prototype is being used and has been used and tested by selected teachers and AI developers internally within the government pilot project. But to the public, it hasn't been publicly available yet. So we still have more to learn about how this AI textbook will actually work and function. And also the kinds of promises that the AI textbook initiative will actually be fulfilled, right? So if we go to the space of students' home, so students will do their assignments, they will preview, review, they'll do flipped learning with these devices. All sounds good. But more importantly, this AI textbook will be used as a core means for parent and teacher communication, which allows the teacher to simply transfer the data that was collected and analyzed by the AI textbook of the children's performances, and it'll be sent off to parents. But when you look at how a lot of these edtech devices or these AI textbooks are made, there's a strong collaboration between the government and private sector. And there are many critiques by the critical edtech scholars how we could have these tech businesses accountable when making these devices for children that can really center children's needs rather than trying to collect massive data of children, which are practically perceived as free, and utilize them for their profit. The key problem is that we still don't have clear protective measures and guidelines when using these edtech products. So then I rely on Gilles Deleuze and Philippe Guattari, their rhizomatic learning. So in botany, a rhizome is the stem of a plant whose roots spread out in many directions. And with this image in mind, rhizomatic learning is a multi-dimensional process. It's supposed to be messy, complex, chaotic. Education is never linear, and what they believe is that each student independently chooses his or her own path. So the teachers cannot possibly know or cater to students' individual needs, interests, and context to the full capacity. So a lot of these edtech products have this notion that the more data that you have about certain subjects or certain objects, the more you can know about those subjects, and this is the key debate that I'm delving into. So from this point of view, I'm also engaging with other critical ethics scholarship, such as ones written by Monica Volger, Justin Reich, and Neil Solwin, who warn about these risks that edtech bring in. I examined policy documents of the Korean Ministry of Education from 2020 to 2024 to look at sort of the discursive framing around promoting these educational technologies in public education sector. So I look at policy memos, promotional materials, and press releases, as well as I'm also looking at news reports, how news are framing the idea of education, along with the idea of technology, how it can really enhance students' creativity and critical thinking skills. And so the news reports portion is still in progress. And the initial findings from the policy documents are that these state-led pandemic period policy discourses work to frame education primarily as a means of human capital enhancement for state modernization. And they further subjugate an already vulnerable state of public education through technocentric solutions. And they present a new paradigm of education that is driven by this techno-utopianism, which creates a critical gap between sort of the perfect imaginaries and actualities. So what I would want to focus on is that these pandemic policies recategorized the space of the classroom as an infrastructure that must require a technological upgrade. So for those of you who are further interested in this ongoing analysis, my first phase of the project was published in the International Journal of Communication, as you can see on the screen, The Datafied School in the Neoliberal Era, Pandemic Shifts in South Korean Education Policy. The ongoing research includes I will be doing ethnography, doing my fieldwork in South Korea when the AI textbook will be launched, when these devices will be rolled out next year. And I will also be interviewing teachers, parents, policymakers, and AI textbook developers to really examine this case and what sorts of learnings that we can get out of from doing this case study. So that's it from me, and I would love to open the floor for further Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saemi. I loved your presentation, and I'm looking forward to asking you some questions about it. Okay, I think we've finished all the presentations. Now we begin the Q&A. We're going to have 10 minutes for each presenter, and we'll begin with Lars.
That we as academics or researchers want to go beyond just making a critique. We want to actually make changes to the system that is so kind of broken right now. And so going back to what I was saying about my presentation was that this kind of like tech solutionist thinking that is so embedded in capitalism is basically we need a lot more rigorous critical literacy education. I think that's what Peggy, you were also kind of referring to.
Right.
That
but it's a hard push.
Right. And I think there's also high demand among many educators out there to develop these critical literacy projects, but also how can we then develop these critical literacy programs that are not only important but also engaging, like what Lars was saying about sort of like the gamification aspect of learning. You know, that's also a potential like an element that we can also think about. But what I see as a broader kind of problem, especially in the educational sector, is that education is no longer being viewed as sort of this intrinsic development of an individual human being, and it's being viewed as more of a like a labor enhancement for each state.
Well, we certainly have that in our university, and they've cut funds to some extent, right? But and we are using AI, and I'm using it in my design practice a lot, and I'm using it in writing, and I'm trying to get students to actually engage in using AI for writing because it gives them some better skill sets sometimes rapidly when they do that. But we have a real emphasis on students in seats, that they need to have those social skills. And
Absolutely.
I don't see how I'm actually, if I could get away with it, I would collect everybody's headphones.
But so there are issues in this kind of learning as well, because it's when you use these systems, everything get locked. It's the same thing with with AI-powered textbook. Whenever you say something, it gets locked, and how do you use that in an ethical way? That's not just about getting more money out of people and giving them the right commercials.
Right. Absolutely.
When it's a government, I think it's more broad than that. And in South Korea, you're talking about the government having all that data.
Well,
Also-
I mean, yeah. So it's interesting because this South Korean case is a heavily statist approach to fixing sort of the chronic issues that we've been seeing in education. And a lot of times the emphasis of education in Korea is very, very strong. I mean, sort of like they're well known for this like educational fervor of like Korean moms sending off their kids to like really high expensive private schools, and they will do everything to send their kids off to like the top universities, right? So it's sort of like engraved in sort of that post-colonial collective identity of Koreans that education is in a way it is a means for social mobility, and it has always been. But what the kind of problem that I see is that in times like this, when COVID-19, we're now post-pandemic, but in that time frame when everything was so uncertain, everybody was fighting for more information, and everybody was not thinking clearly. We did not know what's going to happen to education or our lives at a larger extent. And 1.6 billion kids were sent home, and there was a major disruption in education, and everybody was hastily trying to put together, okay, so how do we fix this problem? And COVID also really unveiled a lot of the underlying issues in education, like a lot of the not only just digital divide, but also unequal opportunities. And there were a lot of talks that came about because of the COVID. So what I see as now, from 2020, which was a really shifting point of our thinking around sense making around education. Now, how it is panning out after now that we have gone through a pandemic, and with the development of technology, because also throughout the pandemic, we saw a huge growth of tech companies making so much profit, right? So it is a very, very complex sort of political economy that we're looking at here. So I mean, we can definitely talk more about this subject. We need like hours and hours, but I also see that it's already 11:27 here in Vancouver time, so we've got only 3 minutes.
I think we have a little bit more. I think it's 10 minutes for each one. From my calculations, we had a little bit more time.
Oh.
Sure, etc. I mean, it looks like a system that fosters tests and making constant tests. And I've seen this for example, in Google Classroom and other types of systems which are similar.
Yes.
And the only thing they can offer us are tests and more tests and etc. So, is that a problem that you'll be looking for?
Yes. So that's also another aspect. I will have to see how this AI textbook pans out, because that is exactly the kind of gamification aspect that a lot of these tech companies try to embed in these AI textbooks. So, for instance, like math problems, when student solves one problem, let's say student A is really good at math, and A did question number 1 just with no problem. And then the algorithms would then generate a harder question. Student A would have to solve that, while student B may be in a similar kind of competitiveness, but then did not solve the question 1. Then the algorithms will not give the person more advanced version of the question later. So it keeps on going like that.
Wow, that's
yeah. So then how does that pan out in the end? When you try to collect all the data from each student, would that be actually equal? And also, when you solve these problems on an AI textbook, I mean, there are also many things that happen in real life, right? If you think about the space that you are in the classroom, the student may actually solve something, and let's say the algorithms are told to assess the student must solve this problem within like 15-second time frame. But then if the student was solving the problem and then went to the bathroom, came back, and it became like, let's say, 2 minutes, then the student obviously gets a bad grade for that particular problem, right? But so there are many things that need to be really assessed. And Ricardo, you also pointed out a really important point about this kind of routine assessment culture that we are obsessed with. That's also one aspect that a lot of critical ethic scholars are trying to critique, that we gotta really kind of rethink what education was all about. When you think about like John Dewey, sort of the founding father of education in the U.S., or Paulo Freire, they all talk about education as something intrinsically important to develop a democratic citizen, to make critical decisions about society, not necessarily as sort of, we are transmitting some sort of knowledge to this particular student. So
you mentioned Paulo Freire, and he actually has a expression which is it's connecting education with
banks,
cash,
banking education.
Cash, I forgot how the term he uses. It's like you work to actually be paid. It's like you're being paid for education.
Yes.
Education as a payment system.
Yes.
Which is it's a bit prejudiced, but it seems like exactly what the system wants. The system that you're describing. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No worries. Yeah, that's the concept that the Freire indeed talks about, like the banking education, right?
Exactly.
You're really just like transmitting knowledge and so obviously, because like my research right now is ongoing and there is so much to unpack, but I think the main the argument or the critique that I'm seeing is that how do we reclaim then education in a sense that we really can center that fostering democratic being rather than making students get ready for the economy that is made by the existing systems of tech companies or other businesses. Yeah.
I think we can talk more about this. How with the system. I think we should be stopping right now for a few minutes and then we continue. I don't remember exactly how long this could be. I mean, 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes. I don't have the.
We don't know.
Okay.
I think
I should know this, but I don't.
I think we're close. I think we're supposed to close at 5:30.
I think yes.
We're closed. We end this session right now.
Yeah, I think so. And then for those who would, I would love to hear. I would love to engage in this discussion for anybody who would be interested in. And I think later in the day, there's also the online meeting where we can join. So perhaps I'll see some of you there. Or tech team also sent out something. If people want to stay, feel free to continue.
We can continue chatting if anyone wants to.
Oh, the free sessions.
Yes, now
yes,
exactly.
Yes.
We can. I think after all the determined 10-minute times for each one, we have this plus, which we can discuss right now. So if we want to continue discussing, we can for a little bit more. I think we have actually an hour, but we don't have to use all that time. Actually, the points that I think interested me was that I didn't exactly understand how you're using the work of Deleuze and Guattari. I just wanted to understand that, how the idea of this metaphor of the rhizomatic information system, this is.
So they draw on this idea of rhizome being, it's a stem of a plant that whose roots kind of spread out to many directions. So if you think about this image, you can sort of think that nothing is a linear process. So they go back to the learning process and say, hey, learning is never linear, it's multidimensional. There are many factors that play in education, in teaching and learning. It's a complex and chaotic process where there are lots of different dynamics going on within the classroom, within the learning space, between the teacher, student, and students, within a closed learning space. So what they're saying is that this rhizomatic learning perspective is based on the premise that, teachers cannot possibly know the individual student's needs, interests, and contexts fully. And what a lot of these AI textbook developers or promoters of AI textbook or all these edtech devices are saying is that, hey, we've got a technology that can tell you exactly what these students need, exactly what these students want, because we know their data, because we have their data. So that's how I engage with Deleuze and Guattari, to point out, really, learning is a really messy process, and I'm really excited about going into doing the field work where I will be entering a classroom, and I'll be sitting in the back of the classroom and kind of like observe how teachers and students will interact while they first, try out this AI textbook. So a lot to be learned from my end as well. To what Ricardo said, I wonder, and I also would love to hear what our audience would think about these. So I think we're also facing the time when, because we also went through this long, very uncertain years of pandemic, which really shifted our ways of thinking and engaging with work and life, not only just public health. It was really transformation of our work, living, how we engage with people, social, everything. So, we also have many instances where people talk about their research around like how people's social interaction has gotten much reduced, much more subdued because of the pandemic. Or there are many instances that they try to highlight how pandemic actually shifted a lot of the ways that people interact. And I think it also affected a lot of the students as well. And there are recent scholarship that really touch upon student attention deficit, students not really engaging with teachers or students, and also students tend to be much more rude to people because they haven't learned the initial social skills during that time frame. So, of course, this is the only one aspect that we can talk about, but in general, I think, it's such a big problem to tackle altogether, but as an educator / researcher, we constantly just have to learn how to engage with these students, because after all, we are the teachers, right? We're the ones who are responsible and who want to help out these students. So yeah, I guess that's the only comment that I just had.
One thing that I think, seeing all of this, and I'm not sure how much of you know about recent situations in Brazil. During the pandemic, we had a right-wing government in Brazil, and there were many questions about education, and especially, Paulo Freire became this. He was persecuted, even though he's dead. His image was persecuted. Do you see, I'm not sure how much you'll be willing to answer this, is there any political questions in this? Because I think no technology is neutral. No. And this doesn't seem to be a neutral example.
Yeah. A lot of these STS, science technology studies, what they do is specifically looking at that intersection between politics and technology, right? And how technology is never neutral, as you said. The political is embedded within the technology.
Thank you very much, Peggy.
Thank you very much.
I think if we don't have any more questions, we can finish. Is it okay with everyone?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you very much. Love.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
It was a good conversation.
It was a very interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.